pedal in the lane, moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am doing a solo show today. Primarily everybody in the industry, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are here in Phoenix up at the TIA Capital Ideas Conference. That's pretty much kicking off today, and it goes Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm going to be up there doing my show tomorrow and Friday. I'm going to be recording some other episodes as well. I'm speaking on a panel out there also. So it's a busy next 72 hours, we will call it. But quick reminder, Freight Coach newsletter dropped today, you guys. If you want in on it once a week, your boy doesn't sell out his contact list, because frankly, I want you guys to want to get these. And it comes out once a week, every single Wednesday. But my only ask is I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com to register for that. Or if you want to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com, and say, sign us up for it, that'll work too. We can do all of that. I just want to make it easier on you all. And then most importantly, I want you guys to sign up for it because you want to receive it. I hate spam. I hate when you just get a ton of newsletters that you didn't sign up for. But that being said, solo show, like I had said, I'm going to be giving you guys some harsh entrepreneur truths out there that I've experienced as I'm coming up on 6 years being self-employed here. But I do want to jump into my favorite segment, and that is This Week in Freight, powered by DAT. So again, we break down drive-in, reefer, and flatbed lanes 3 times a week, all 100% viewer submitted. So if you want your lane broken down on the show, I just need pickup city, delivery city, and trailer type. And again, that's all I need. And I'm going to show you guys how I personally assess lanes when I am bidding on freight out there. But this one, great state of Florida, Orlando, Florida, to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is a literal lane that I also run for a customer of ours. And, you know, it's one of those things. So if you've ever moved outbound Florida, anything, you know how crazy it is when the outbound rate almost matches the inbound rate. And I'm going to show you guys that here. So if you look at the inverse, nope, that's not what I was going for here. Yeah, right here. This one is it's like $2,900 or $2,850 to go from Philly into Florida. And then on this one, it's like more expensive to go out of Florida. And that's like the biggest anomaly that I've ever seen out there, because it is so rare that that happens. But again, this is good miles. It's 1,000 miles. It's a good weekend run. So you're going to see a lot of consistency out here, whether you're picking it up on unless it has to ship Thursday for Monday. But again, if it's a good weekend run out there, it's a good weekday run as well for you. But yes, rates are up out of the state of Florida. Right now, you can see it's essentially up $600 from the year average. And I think everything, if you've Florida has, yes, fuel is one of those things, but Florida is the most publicized state for really cracking down on fraudulent carriers, also non-domiciled drivers as well. They are administering ELP tests at scales and other places that are out there. So that naturally drives carriers away from it. That drives the right carriers away from that market as well, because they don't want to deal with the hassle. And it's like, we're coming up on DOT inspection week here early next month. I think it's like May 12th or close to that. That naturally drives carriers away from wanting to move during that week as well. And that has everything to do with the fact that sometimes they just don't want to be messed with, right? They don't want to sit at a scale, or they don't want to sit and wait 10 hours and then they lose a day and then they get fined and a bunch of other stuff that come about because now they're late for their delivery and such. So I think that is the main driver in this market right now. But again, I want you guys to pay attention, because I think once we look, if it was April of 2027, right now we would see almost an exact mirror image of how this lane is going to perform. It's just going to be at a higher price point. I always think anybody who's in the state of Florida is going to want to get out. I don't think you're going to have a big capacity issue on this. Again, it could be limited just due to the fact that there aren't as many trucks that are willing to go into the state of Florida. I just know that anybody who's in the state of Florida is going to want to get out of the state of Florida. So that strategy will not change with this. And so again, I think if you're looking at this one overall, if this was your lane, I would be very comfortable in the sense of like quoting what you're probably already moving it for. I think if anything, the rates are going to start like stabilizing or even dropping. And that's going to be on the national average as a whole as well. It takes a couple of weeks for a lot of this information to come out, but I'm starting to see it in some of the lanes in other markets that we're moving. There was a shock jolt of price increases out there, and they have started to taper off and level off. And then what happens after that is they're either going to stay at that or they're going to start to drop back down. And I think that has everything to do with fuel at that point. But, again, like I always like to say, I could be wrong. This is just how I read freight markets and what I currently think is going to be going on here for the next, 30 to 60 or even 90 days out there. But that lane, Orlando, Florida, Philadelphia, your godsend is anybody who's in Florida is going to want to get the hell out, and you will be good on covering this one. And, again, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to quote on this. I just think that you're going to probably see a stabilization factor here at that 29 to 3,100 mark out there, which is, $3 a mile, which is phenomenal for outbound Florida out there. But that is it for this week in freight, powered by my friends at DAT. You guys, that was our flatbed lane analysis. And if you want to get your lane broken down on that, you guys, all I need you to do is email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. All right. So today's solo episode, I was planning on releasing this right now. I'm going to be in under 2 weeks, 6 years of being self-employed. I have a bunch of hard truths, and a lot of things that I've learned out there. And, my a guy who's been on my show before, Wasim, he put out a post the other day, kind of talking about that in that beginning phases of it. And it always resonates with me when you are that initial excitement of what, comes when you first kind of decide you're going to go out on your own. Everybody's journey is different. I want to start with that. It's very easy early on to be, I would say it's very easy early on to be deterred by everyone else's perceived progress and perceived success. And I'm not sitting here saying other people aren't experiencing it. The internet makes it look very convincing that everybody's a millionaire or a billionaire and everybody has endless capital. They're all driving Ferraris, all flying private, all of that stuff. And I mean, that just couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Social media paints a false reality. And it puts a false sense of what it actually takes to build something, at least what I think actually it takes to build something sustainable out there. I look at, I pay attention to macroeconomic data. The data is alarmingly high on how many businesses don't ever gross over $1 million a year in top line revenue. It's like 9% across all industries. Okay. 9% across all industries of businesses actually do more than $1 million a year. And then it's an even smaller percentage of that once you start adding employees into the mix as well. As when your team grows, it's even a smaller percentage of a chance that you're going to get out there. So it's like, if you're starting out, if you're in, your first couple of years in business and you're not getting the traction that you want, I don't think you're behind at all. I think you got to stay off of social media. And even if those people are experiencing that high level of success that's out there, I would highly advise to not count anybody else's money, because that doesn't put money into your bank account at all. But, I want to, and if you're going to be at the TIA conference tomorrow, you guys, I'm joining Nick Lester and Liz Wayne to talk about this, right? About like growing your business. And, for my credentials is I've started 3 companies from scratch. And by scratch, I mean 0 customers, 0 revenue, 0 guarantees of anything, right? Everything was built from nothing. I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. If you got some customers coming in and willing to transfer your book of business and all that, go that route, take that route. It's rewarding, but it's very, very stressful. That's out there. And I've, and then on top of that, I've had one successful exit from one of my businesses, got a little bit of cash from that. And, I'm on my current ventures, and my only focus is Freight Coach Logistics and Freight Coach Enterprises. Freight Coach Enterprises is the podcast and media work that I do out there. But, I think when you're first starting out, and you might even, and even when you're 6 years in, so like currently I have 3 employees on, and then plus my co-founder. So there's 5 of us on our overall team here. But when you're starting out, like, I personally think the hardest thing is that initial excitement wears off, and it's coming down and developing that system of productivity. And what do I mean by that? I look at it as it's on you to generate all of the revenue. It's different if you got an existing book of business, and I'm going to keep this freight tailored because that's really all I talk about on here. If you got an existing book of business and you jumped out on your own, whether you started as a 1099 agent or you started, your own company, your own LLC, sole proprietor, all of that on your own, have your own MC number, you might be okay right away, right? Because you got some revenue coming in, you got some freight coming in, but there's that overwhelming feeling of you're so busy, you're so, exhausted, you're getting pulled in a million different directions that's out there. But if you're starting out and you have nothing, right? You got 0 customers, you got to build a system of productivity, so a system that you can follow every single day. And I'm going to get even as granular as saying, if you've never made sales calls before, because like it's a very big fallacy out there in the market that there's, everybody's got their own place in an organization, but there's a very big difference between business development and account management. Okay. There are 2 completely separate roles that are out there. It takes a very unique personality type to develop business from scratch, i.e. the very first cold call that is out there. And if you've never done that before, you got to find a sustainable number that you can hit every single day. And there's a quote that comes to mind that, I truly, truly adhere to in almost all areas of my life. I would rather be consistently good than occasionally great. And what I mean by that is anybody can put in the work when they're motivated and when they want to. Okay. It's very easy to rock out 50, 75 calls for a couple of days. But are you going to do that number every single day in and day out, repeatedly, until you come to a point where you have some business going in? Because to be honest with you guys, like, we started our freight brokerage here in, the easiest way to describe it, January 1 of 2023 was our year 1 in business, right? We had finalized everything and kind of started late November of 2022, but I just round up. So you all know what was going on in the freight market in 2023, 2024, 2025, and, even for the early part of 2026, right? If you were making sales calls at that time, You probably got a ton of no answers. You probably got no responses to the email. Remove us from your list. We're good with our current network. Developing business was a lot more challenging during these last 3 years than I've ever experienced in the entirety of my career. It doesn't matter that I have 15 years experience. It doesn't matter that I've worked with some of the largest logos in North America. I know how to move a lot of freight. I know how to move it at a very, very high level. I would put my skill set up against anybody's in the industries on managing, developing, and building a book of business that is out there. But sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, the market dictates the need for your product or service. All I'm really trying to say is I'm not trying to deter anybody from going out there. There's business out there, right? Like, we've grown year over year over year. I've publicized all of our numbers on my LinkedIn page. You can check all of that stuff out. I put exactly where we are, mainly because I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm bigger. My business is bigger than it actually is. I'm building this up, and I want to put that honest approach out there. But for me, it's building that system, and you got to keep showing up. Again, it's easy to rock out a bunch of work when you're motivated, but if you've never done that at a very high level, I always look at it as you got to start with a palatable number, whether it's 5, this is all hypotheticals, 5, 10, maybe 15 cold calls a day. Start there, but make sure you do it every single day for at least 2 to 3 weeks. If it takes you a month to get comfortable, have it take a month, because again, we want to be consistently good. All right. I would rather, and that this is for my team and myself, I want to be consistently good as opposed to occasionally great. So it's like, you got to go after that. There's a lot of isolation that comes along with this. But like, most importantly, you're the only one who needs to understand your vision. Right. So like, the isolation of it is, and this is like, I'm kind of tying this all into step one. You got to be you should not need to seek external validation at all. And I would advise that you stop seeking external validation to go out there and do what you need to do. Again, you got to build that system of productivity, something that you can follow day in and day out to ensure the work gets done, because it takes a very, very long time. Trust me, we're on year 4 right now. I thought we would be doing 20, 25 million a year at this point. I truly did. I was wrong, but we've had some success and we've grown. But again, we got to build that system of productivity around. And this also ties into my second big point. Not all revenue is created equally. You've heard me talk about this on this show. I am a big, big believer in going after, especially when you're starting with nothing, going after one freight type, finding that niche, becoming a subject matter expert, and then finding the right customers. I've whittled down our ICP, ideal customer profile. If you want a really good book on this, I would highly recommend my friend Kara Brown's book, The Revenue Engine. Buy it, go on Amazon. It's a phenomenal read. That book has helped me fundamentally clear up a lot of who we're prospecting against, because now at this point, like, we have our core customers. We have 7 shippers that we are working with on a monthly basis right now. And we have them breaking down. We have our primary customers, i.e. they have the most volume for us. We have our secondary customers who are like the mid-level. It's all based on volume is how I break it down. So we have a very solid customer base that has worked with us now for a couple of years. But now that I have that established, I've whittled down who I'm going after, because like, I need more, not revenue, I need more volume, right? And yes, volume and revenue can be directly tied together. But when I'm prospecting people, I don't want to go after a shipper who might only have 1 full truckload in a month, or might only have like 3 or 4 in a month in total. And it's not to say that that's not good business and you can't make money on that. I'm at a point where I need to build. Okay. So I'm personally going after shippers that fall in between that 3 to 5 daily shipment metric, public school education there. But yeah, 3 to 5, 3 to 5 daily shipments is what I'm chasing after. And then I chose that number because anything above that, right? If we're looking at, they got 50 loads a day and stuff like that, a lot of it falls into like managed transportation categories, or it's, I can't punch at that weight class yet from a volume and rate perspective, where, a lot of the larger providers, they can financially crush me And I have just found that a lot of those enterprise level shippers have very long-standing relationships. And I know how that game is played because I played that game for a long time at my previous employer. And I've just found that it's more of a numbers game at that level. Not saying that they don't value their providers, but I want to find that sweet spot of that niche of that 3 to 5 daily shipments. I've just found that is where my skill set works the best out there in the market. And from an opportunities perspective, they might be being serviced by a lot of the larger providers right now, but usually those are the first ones that are dropped to the wayside when things change and when capacity tightens up, rates raise, all of that fun stuff. So not all revenue is created equally, and I want you to pay attention to that as you're going out there and building your business, because right away you're just chasing revenue. I just need money. I need something coming in, and then after a while, you kind of come to the point where it's like, hey, I only have so many reps in a day. I can reach out to people. I want to make sure that if I'm only able to make 30, 35, outreaches in a day, whether it's a cold call, an email, or whatever you decide, I want it to count. Okay. I want all of my outreach to be directed completely towards my target market, my ideal customer profile. I look at organization as well, and not from a company standpoint. I mean, personal organization, time management. Your business is like a literal direct reflection of you out there, because if you're disorganized in other areas of your life, it's going to bleed in. You can't just be dialed in one area and then a disaster in every other area. And this is a process, right? I learned this right away. This is one of I treat my daily routine as I'm a professional athlete. All right. I am very organized in my time, my routine, and what I do every single day. And I know that if I hit those key metrics, it has a direct reflection of the success of my business. And staying on top of things, staying organized, commitments, all of that stuff. But most importantly, you guys, saying no to opportunities, because you're going to attract a lot of people who want to waste your time. There's no other way to put it. I'm going to be blunt. When you start a business or when you start moving a little bit, there are a lot of people who want to pick your brain about shit. I don't have that type of time. Most of you don't have that type of time, because that's costing you revenue producing hours of your day. I call them the looky-loo syndrome. I would advise, if people are going to come onto your calendar, if I've never talked to anybody, if I've never talked to this individual before, it's a 15-minute conversation. If you can't get out why we're talking in that 15 minutes, I got to go back to my day. If I know you and we've talked before, there's going to be some leeway with that. But I would advise a lot of us to shorten meetings. All right. 15 minutes max. If we can't get to the point in that time, you probably, unless it's a customer, right? Unless it's a prospect, let's classify that, then go and take that time. But if it's not, if it's somebody who's just wanting to pick your brain on stuff, and you guys know what I mean, if you've ever gotten a DM before, I wouldn't even agree to that. But I would also, if you're going to agree to that and meet with somebody, 15 minutes max. Freedom. This is another thing everybody wants to talk about. All the freedom. People, when you quit your job, you're like, oh, my own boss, I can make my own hours, and now what you don't realize is as you grow and scale, again, right away, it's a lot of chaos, right? You're developing that system around it. I remember when I first started, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Now I've got a very solid system. I got my hours of productivity that are down. Obviously, shippers aren't open 24/7. At least the customers that I move freight for, they have an opening and a closing time that's out there. And I am now a lot more efficient with my time. So there are days that, yeah, you know what? I do get to leave the office at 3 o'clock Pacific time. I'm also here at 6 a.m. Pacific time. And that's my window, because I start on East Coast hours that are out there. And most of my West Coast shippers are done by 3 o'clock. But I also look at it is you don't get a lot of freedom in the first couple of years. You really don't. You're going and you're chasing a lot of stuff. You're trying to get in front of as many people as possible. And, at the end of the day, yes, it's my name on stuff, but it's also my responsibility, right? If things happen, if there's, a claim that gets denied, it's money out of my pocket. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this freedom. And there's an illusion that if you're your own boss, you only got to work 1 hour a week and you're a fucking millionaire. Again, I haven't experienced that. If you have, more power to you. But the freedom that you experience is literally the most expensive thing you will ever purchase, because it's attainable in time, but it takes a long time to get there. It's not, I started my LLC, I'm a baller, I'm going to put motivational memes out there and shit like that. Like it takes a long time to get to that point, maybe 5-6 years. I don't know, it could be shorter or more. I'm just saying, like, it took me probably about 5 years before I finally think I had a system of productivity, like, I'm not going to say mastered, but pretty dialed in on like my revenue producing hours and maximizing my time during them. I think that a lot of, again, back to like the 90% failure rate that's in business. And this is spread out over like 7 years, I think. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like there's a massive, massive wasteland between excitement of starting something and then the monotony of building it. Because after a while, the excitement goes away, right? Like you eventually, again, back to kind of tie into one of my earlier things about a system of productivity, you eventually got to get to the point where you got to show up when you don't want to, because the excitement's gone, the motivation's gone, nobody's cheering for you. Nobody gives a shit. You got to keep showing up. And especially when there's no money coming in, there's no freight, there's no revenue, there's no nothing. You got to keep showing up, and you got to be your own cheerleader. Really, you got to be your own cheerleader. You got to be your biggest fan. And that's what I mean by the fact that you don't need anybody. You shouldn't need anybody to keep you on the path, because there's a big, massive wasteland out there between idea and execution. And that's where everybody quits, right? Is in that massive wasteland of, you have the idea, but you're not executing on that idea. And if you are, you're occasionally executing on that idea and you're not doing it at the level that you get. And then you get a couple of setbacks out there along the way. And that's when most people quit, right? So it's like, it's mastering all of that. And again, you're not alone, right? If you've ever built anything from scratch, you understand that there are peaks and valleys of this. And a lot of times the valleys are a lot longer than the peaks. Again, back to building up my, our book of business here for our brokerage. I thought we were going to be 20 times farther along than we currently are. I can't control the macroeconomics of everything. I can't control supply and demand. I can't control the market, but I can control me showing up every single day. And, again, dealing with that vast wasteland of nothingness that goes on. But like, that is the work, right? Like, everybody goes through that. You're not alone. And then, finally, and I think that this is, again, to kind of summarize, this is the hardest one for me personally, is your identity cannot be tied to your P&L, profit and loss, your revenue and stuff like that. It's not like, again, back to like, I can't control the freight market. I can't control if I prospect somebody and they're like, we're good right now, or they say, don't call us ever. I can't control any of that. That is not a direct reflection of your abilities or capabilities. This is something that I truly struggle with probably more than anything is because it's like, when I cold call somebody, like, my mentality is I'm better than your current network. I know I'm better than your current network. Not saying that we're perfect or anything like that, but that's my mentality. And, I look at it you can't, everybody's journey is different. All right. I think that the best way to describe it, because some people start out on third base, right? Maybe they're taking over a family business. They never started it from scratch. They're coming into an established system, or maybe they got a family member who's bankrolling everything. So they can kind of go out and deal with a lot of that stuff. And they don't necessarily have to worry about it, or they've raised a bunch of capital. And, again, that's a whole other stress, but again, hey, they got money coming in. They're able to pay themselves a salary. It's a lot different than when you bootstrap it from 0 customers and zero revenue. But you can't tie that to your self-worth in the moment. It's a lot easier said than done. It's easy for me to say this right now than it has been in years past. But I look at it that's what's gonna That's what's going to make or break you more than anything is, looking at other people's bank accounts. And what I mean by that is like, oh, that company says they're doing 100 million. You can't prove that. They're not going to show their true P&L, their true financials. It's easy to go out there and say that you're doing X, Y, and Z, right? And again, you can't control if there's a company who raises billions of dollars and that's not you. Or, there's a company who happens to explode during a massive boom cycle in the market that nobody's ever seen before, and you didn't start at that time. That's not on you. Or another company that sold. Maybe there are all the rumblings about, they never actually made money, but they sold for blah, 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 blah. If that's not your business, then don't tie your worth to anybody else but your performance, and just focus in on your day. All right. I only talk about the little things and those steps that I follow every single day, because that's just what's worked for me, right? Like, I have a verifiable business, multiple businesses. All right. I've actually done the work. All right. None of what I'm talking about is theory. This is what I apply every single day. This is how I've gotten customers. This is how I get customers. This is how I've built sustainable revenue for those businesses to grow my company over this time frame. So, I look at it over this time, what I thought was I was just going to build a business, but like, I've had to completely change my entire identity as a person, as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a founder. All of this, I've had to completely reinvent myself for the better. If you are feeling stuck, or maybe you're not as far ahead as you thought, or you think you're the only one who's experiencing hardships, you're not. Anybody who's actually building something is going to talk to you about the realities of it, because they've all been there, right? Like, I've been there. I know what it feels like to have nobody watching, nobody listening, no customers, no money, emptied my 401k, emptied my savings account, fucking essentially 30 days away from going bankrupt almost every single month. I know what that feels like, and it fucking sucks. But you're not alone. You have to look at what are you doing on a daily basis, and how can you shift it to being more productive with your time. And again, building up that consistent good. All right. Consistently good will beat occasionally great 100 times out of 100. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys all got some value in this one. Again, I always am just going to tell my honest story out there, because I hope that keeps somebody in the game a little bit longer, and they're not thinking about quitting. Or if they are thinking about quitting, they can listen to this episode and be like, you know what, fuck it. If he struggles with shit, I'm not alone. I'm going to keep pushing forward. That's what I hope for this. But that's going to be it. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane